Well, you must have clicked on this video because you saw a little interesting title called How to Escape the Rat Race, right? And so there's this corporate slavery train track that's been running America since 1916, and I'm a little bit curious as to why it is that there's some individuals that are much higher net worth than other individuals. Now, particularly, I believe this was 1971 that it began, but I just wanted to disclose to this audience in particular how you specifically can reach that same place of triumph, meaning escaping the rat race. Now, the first thing I want to make very clear is that you escape when your annual income exceeds your annual expenses. That's in basic, that is it. That is the full thing. Now, I want to break it down into 4 distinct principles to allow you guys to remember this and to carry through the rest of your lives, kind of just knowing this. So the first one's nameless, but the second principle is called wow. The third one is how, and the fourth one is now. So the first principle, there's nothing written up there, but it does mean care, don't care, you should care. So there's many different outcomes about caring and not caring, but when you should care, it's something that's very dire and drastic, important to your life, something that you want to be able to provide to your children maybe, something that you'd like to enlighten your spouse with. Even if you're living by yourself, your quality of life would be significantly altered if you just escaped that rat race. So when we're talking about corporate slavery and the 9 to 5, how do you even do that? Well, principle number 2 is wow. And I called it this principle because there's just something very simple about wow. The wow factor here is that the only way to achieve escape velocity is to manage this gap. The gaps that I'll describe right here. So we have price on the y-axis, time on the x-axis. You have an income and you have a spending. So in this particular principle, this would be a frown. This is a frowny face because, as you can see, spending goes down as income stays flat. So they get no additional new money. However, they're spending a lot more than they ever have. How does that make sense? Now, in the interim between those two, we find the savings gap. Now, the savings gap is the only measurement, only vehicle that will take you to escape velocity or exiting the rat race, right? So the second one that I have right here, this is when your income goes up, so you get a better job, you start to spend more as you get that better job. And what you can see is that there is no gap. That gap is non-existent right there. So with no divergence in the gap, you're left empty-handed. Now the third, and that would be a rather flat face right there. So now the third one I want to talk about, this is the happy face, where you have turned that frown upside down. And what that means is that you've increased the savings gap. What does it take to increase the savings gap? Well, you have to spend less as you earn more. If you're able to spend less, or in other words, save more, as you also earn a better income or save more money, cut your costs, that's effectively increasing the width of the savings gap. Now, once that gap gets big enough and your annual income exceeds those expenses, that is when you've beaten the rat race. You're no longer at a requirement to clock into that 9 to 5 job, and it's less of a concern for you there. So the third one I want to talk about is how, right? Because this visual image, it looks very pretty, but you're asking, how the hell do we even do that? Now, in the third gap, I want to make one thing very clear. There are only 3 ways to earn more money. You ever hear somebody say that they make money? They're lying to you, because the only people that make money is the United States Treasury. However, your friends have somehow figured it out. I don't think so. So to earn more money, the way that you do it, you can either open an enterprise, become an entrepreneur, or you could earn more money at a safer job, or you can speculate. Now, those 3 things are on a risk spectrum. The lowest risk of those items is earning the safer job. The highest risk on that spectrum is opening your own enterprise or becoming an entrepreneur. In the middle is where you get speculation. This is your sports gamblers, your poly market bettors, your people that want to trade stocks, equities, derivatives, options, whatever it might be. That specific class of speculation is on a risk spectrum. But the common misconception here is that people tend to believe just because you're in a job, you're assuming no risk. And that's very curious to me because as somebody who has worked hard and has accumulated a college degree in an effort to earn a better job, and in doing so, the consequence of that would be a better income. I don't think people really understand that you are taking on a risk there. You're risking your time, your student debt, you're risking your energy, you're risking your life to go out and to open that career field of opportunities, right? And in the middle of the spectrum, you have speculation, where people usually draw away from because the barrier to entry is so low. And what constitutes that? You know, what makes somebody say, you know what, I'm willing to go take the risk of becoming an entrepreneur, and I think that that is what's worth it for me? So everybody's subjective and they have their own risk tolerance. But if you understand that it's only those three mediums, and that is the only way to increase the width of this savings gap, then all of a sudden this big labyrinth and the puzzle of escaping the rat race has become a lot more simple. See, all you really have to do is increase the amount that you earn and decrease the amount that you output or spend. It's really about those cash inflows and outflows. And for anyone who's ever taken an accounting class, you hate me. And I hated myself too, until I realized that I don't want to have a frowny face. I want to have a smiley face. So in effort of saying all of that, the fourth principle is now. The fourth principle being now, what that means is that you need to do this now. There's no better time to do it. In fact, the best time to do all of this was 10 years ago. And the second best time is today. So if you think that I'm off my rocker, you know, that's all right. But if you're willing to learn more, if you're interested in talking about this, you know, I think that value is a victim of circumstance. And if you're not able to comprehend the differences of how your life would look with negative equity versus positive, then, you know, we're in for a rough haul. But if any of this resonated with you, my name is Dylan. Please consider subscribing. Drop anything in the comments you'd like to see me talk about in future videos. Thank you guys so much for watching.